Hello, it's Mike from TCAT's Deep Vinyl Tracks, doing a video for CGC Vinyl Guy. He's doing a contest where he is reaching for 100 subs, and it would be a good idea, I think, to help him out. Everybody go to his channel, which I'm going to leave a link to down here. Actually, I'm leaving a link to his contest video announcement, and go there and subscribe to his channel. Help him out a bit. He's got some very interesting content there, and this particular contest has to do with soundtracks. So he wants us just simply to show the soundtracks that we have in our collection, and the contest ends April 30th, so there's still plenty of time to get involved in this one and help him out a bit. At first, I didn't think I had as many soundtracks as what I had, and when I started pulling them, I have some of them grouped together and others within the artists. So once I grouped them all together, there was a lot more here than what I thought originally. And so I'm going to try to go through these quickly. First of all, I'm going to show a record that says it's a soundtrack but actually isn't, and that is Tencc's The Original Soundtrack. This was their second album. It is not a soundtrack. The title is actually a joke of sorts. But if you like the song I'm Not in Love, which was one of their big hits, it's on this album. It's actually a very good album, but not a soundtrack. Now, Arlo Guthrie, of course, is famous for Alice's Restaurant, and he did one album called Alice's Restaurant, which is not a soundtrack, which features a live version of his sidelong, I don't know if you could call it a song, a lot of it's spoken word, but it's quite hilarious, and that's Alice's Restaurant. Well, there is an original motion picture score to that, and that's this one, the original motion picture score to Alice's Restaurant starring Arlo Guthrie. And this one is not a live. This is more of a studio version of that track, and it's also cut up into two sections. So the first part is on side one, and there are other songs along with that. The second part is on side two, with also other songs on it. Now, if you want to get this particular album, I would suggest you get the one that's not the soundtrack. This one is a little bit all over the place, I guess you could say. Not really a great thing. So, but there it is. Next, Vangelis is famous for a lot of his soundtracks, but this particular one is one that he did quite early on when he was still with the band Aphrodite's Child. And it's a French film, and I can't really pronounce the title of it correctly. L'Apocalypse des Animaux. Something like that. Anyway, I'm sorry if I'm killing that pronunciation. But one of his early albums, it sounds a lot like his work with Aphrodite's Child, not like his later work. Very good album. Not one that's very easy to find nowadays. But again, it's not really that expensive either when you do find it. On the Polydor label. So that's Vangelis, and there will be a couple of Vangelis soundtracks in this, since he has done a lot of soundtracks. Next is album from Mark Knopfler from the film Cow. This one has music written by him. There may be some vocals on here, but most of it's instrumental. Actually, there are no vocal credits, so it's been a while since I've heard it, but I do remember it is a really good soundtrack. It's got his signature guitar sound all over this soundtrack. Very nice album. Again, back to Vangelis. Everybody's familiar with Chariots of Fire, and I think pretty pretty much everybody somewhere along the way has had a copy of this. Very good, popular soundtrack, especially the sidelong suite, which is simply called Chariots of Fire, but the other songs are also part of the movie. This is a bunch of Windham Hill artists that did the soundtrack to a movie called Country. And this particular movie starred Jessica Lange, Sam Shepard, and also Wilford Brimley. Wilford Brimley is the guy that is famous for "It's the Smart Thing to Do" or something like that. Anyway, for Quaker Oats commercial that he did. But this is really a nice, beautiful sounding soundtrack, and there are quite a few different artists involved in this particular soundtrack. Now, something I didn't mention at the beginning of this, even though this is a video in response to CGC Vinyl Guys contest, it's also got a second purpose, and the second purpose is to be part 2 of my various artists collection, which I was planning on doing this for that, showing off my various artists collections. There will also be a part 3 of that, so not only is it a contest video entry, but it's also part 2 of my various artists collections. Next is the ever popular Eddie and the Cruisers by John Cafferty and the Beaver Brown Band. I believe this one's been shown before quite a few times. Another one that a lot of people own. 2-disc set from Willie Nelson, the soundtrack from Honeysuckle Rose. This features a lot of Willie Nelson songs, but also contains songs from other artists. From the stars of the movie, Diane Cannon also sings on this. Emmylou Harris is along, Amy Irving, a few other artists that I'm not too familiar with, but also a lot of his own family is involved in this particular record. It's 2-record set, like I said. Most of it is live music from Willie Nelson. This is another Windham Hill artist collection, but this is all one artist, Mark Isham, who has done several soundtracks. I often see his name pop up on soundtrack credits. This one actually has 3 different music from 3 different movies. Mrs. Soulful, which starred Mel Gibson and Diane Keaton. The Times of Harvey Milk, and side 2 is made up completely of the soundtrack to Never Cry Wolf. Another excellent soundtrack. I always like Mark Isham's music. Very nice music on this one. Neil Diamond, I'm a fan of his early stuff. This is probably the last album in his discography chronologically that I like, but I absolutely love this album, and it's Jonathan Livingston Seagull. This album is composed and written all by Neil Diamond, including the orchestral arrangements. There's 6 main tracks on here that contain lyrics, and they're spread throughout the album. The rest of the album contains variations of the themes from these songs, but absolutely beautiful album. There's the gatefold. It also comes with a book about the movie and about the music. It's all embossed. The lyrics are in there. Amazing album. I absolutely love it. Okay, next movie. Most of the music on this is performed by Los Lobos, and that's La Bamba. You also have Bo Diddley, Howard Huntsberry, Brian Setzer, and Marshall Crenshaw involved on some of the songs, but most of it is done by Los Lobos. This doesn't say anywhere that's an original soundtrack, but it is music from the movie The Magic Christian, the band called Badfinger, and of course they have the hit If You Want It, Here It Is, Come and Get It, is on this album. It's on the Apple label. How about that? But Ringo Starr was also in the movie along with Peter Sellers. And this is not Badfinger's best album, but it is still pretty good. Now, I hope I don't kill this person's name. I know I'm going to, because I believe it's a Japanese name. Ryuichi Sakamoto. Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. I think I showed this on my introductory video, or somewhere along the way early on. This is mostly electronic music. The composer is also an actor in the movie. And I've never seen the movie. I'd like to see it, but the soundtrack itself is really good. There are a few vocals, mostly on the last song, but most of it is all electronic instrumental. Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. It's not a Christmas album, by the way. One of my all-time favorite films. I love the Coen brothers, and I also love this movie, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Great movie, of course, starring George Clooney, and other amazing actors. Just a wonderful movie. It's a double album. And nice custom labels. It's just on black vinyl, so I'm not going to show that. But you got George Clooney, John Turturro. Sorry, I messed up his name, but I love his acting. Tim Blake Nelson and John Goodman. Speaking of John Turturro, I'd like to recommend you check out a new series that he's in called Severance. Kind of a whacked out series, very funny at parts and serious in other parts. Great movie, great series. Check it out if you can. This one also doesn't say soundtrack anywhere on it, but Paul Simon's One Trick Pony the music on this album was created for Paul Simon's movie, One Trick Pony. So this is all music from his movie. And a really nice inner sleeve that goes along with it, with stills from the movie. And the lyrics, and it's just on Warner Brothers. As you can see, there's a lot more here than what I expected when I started this out. This is an album called The 16 Greatest Hits of Ennio Maricone. Everybody knows he's a famous Italian soundtrack composer. And this contains a lot of music from his westerns, including Once Upon a Time in the West and several others. Fistful of Dollars, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is not on this, but it's still a really good collection. There you can see the track listing. And it's on Orange RCA label. Bob Dylan wrote a couple of soundtracks. This particular one is Bob Garrett and Billy the Kid. This one has the song Knocking on Heaven's Door on it. And there you go, a scene from the movie. Won't be able to see this very well, but there's the track listing. A lot of it is instrumental, but there's also some vocals on here too. Kind of a different album for Bob Dylan on the red Columbia label. But still, love Bob Dylan. You gotta love this too. Uh, Another amazing series that was on, Perpetual Grace Limited. This so far has only had one season, but what a hilarious and strange series this was. But the music was done by a band, a collective actually, called the Jones Sisters. I don't think they have any other albums out, but I wish they would, because this is an amazing album. Just awesome music, especially if you're into like your alternative country, indie folk style. This is just full of great songs. And there's pictures of the band, and then on the other side, pictures from the series. Can't recommend this album enough if you can find it. It was a record store day release. It's on white vinyl, but highly recommended album. So, the Jones Sister, the original songs of Perpetual Grace. Clanade, usually writers of Irish folk music. This album called Legend is actually music from Robin of Sherwood, which was a BBC. Is it BBC or PBS? I'm not sure, but one of those. But this is your typical early Clanade sound on the RCA label. It's nice music. It's a lot of mostly acoustic, actually. Nothing really stands out as far as any hits or anything, but there are some great sounding acoustic songs here. Stevie Wonder's Journey Through the Secret Life of Plants. It says on the back of this, substantial portions of this album are contained in the soundtrack of the motion picture The Secret Life of Plants. Now, a lot of people, when he put out this album, thought it was a little strange because it sounds a lot different from anything else he's done for the most part. Yes, there are some great Stevie Wonder songs here, but a lot of it is instrumental, and this explains why. Is because it's from that soundtrack. Double album, and it's on the Camela label. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, She's the One. This contains songs and music from She's the One, the motion picture. And most of it is written by Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. So there's the track list. It's really a good album for a soundtrack coming from Tom Petty. One that kind of gets ignored because it is a soundtrack, but still a very good album nonetheless. So, and there's also one song on here by Beck. Most everything else is done by Tom Petty, though. It's a nice purple Warner Brothers label. This also comes from the box set, The Complete Studio Recordings of Tom Petty, Volume 2. From the motion picture soundtrack, Sid and Nancy. It's called Love Kills, but it's actually from the motion picture soundtrack that starred Gary Oldman and Chloe Webb. And there's some songs on here by the Pogues, Pray for Rain, Circle Jerks. Nothing original from Johnny Rotten, of course. I'm sorry, I said Johnny Rotten. I meant Sid Vicious. I know, that was a stupid mistake. Anyway, Sid and Nancy. Not a bad album. Not really punk like you would expect it to be, but there's hints of it on there. Of course, a lot of people have this, The Who, Tommy. This is actually the soundtrack from the movie, not the original album from The Who, but this is the soundtrack. So it does have songs performed by The Who. A lot of the characters were from the band, of course. Pete Townsend was the narrator. Of course, Roger Daltrey played Tommy, and then John Entwistle played a minor character. I don't think Keith Moon was around for this at that time, but anyway, not as good as the original Tommy album because some of the actors do some of the singing on here, but Elton John's song Pinball Wizard, which was actually a cover from Tommy, is on this album. So, you know, and Tina Turner is the Acid Queen. She does lead vocals on one of them, but for the most part, it's, you know, kind of hit and miss. Urban Cowboy, of course, was the soundtrack. This is Urban Cowboy 2. I saw this in a old record dollar store bin, and I had Urban Cowboy at one time. I thought it will be interesting to hear the second part of this. No, it's not. Pink Floyd's Obscured by Clouds is actually music from the movie La Vallée. I guess that's how you pronounce it again. It's French. I don't know. Most people know Obscured by Clouds by Pink Floyd. It's actually a very good album. They did all the music for this on this particular album. Considered the bridge between Echoes and Dark Side of the Moon. This is, if you're into Pink Floyd, this is a pretty good album, a good stepping stone for their transition from the strange psychedelic to the more progressive sound they had. So, Obscured by Clouds by Pink Floyd. And last but not least, another Vangelis release. This one's called Themes. These are all themes from different movies. It's more of a collection than anything else, but it's got some great stuff on there. Of course, you see Chariots of Fire. It's also got a couple of tracks from Blade Runner, including the end titles from Blade Runner, which was previously unreleased. The theme from Missing. A couple of songs from some of his albums, but most of these, Antarctica is another soundtrack that's on here. Anyway, good album. Has a lot of the popular themes that Vangelis wrote, so this is one that if you are looking to get into Vangelis, it's probably a good entry point because you'll recognize a lot of these. So anyway, that's it. That's my soundtracks in my collection. So that fulfills part 2 of my various artist collections, and also head on over to CGC Vinyl Guy's channel and check out his contest announcement and subscribe to his channel. Help him out a bit. So, all right. Thank you very much for watching.